Destiny. Sarah Chen peered through the viewport of her stealth vessel, the Whisper, at the sprawling Nexus station. Its massive rings rotated slowly against the backdrop of the Andromeda Nebula, casting long shadows across the silver-plated docking bays. Intelligence suggested something sinister lurked behind the station's legitimate trading operations, but even after 3 months of surveillance, Sarah hadn't found concrete evidence. Anomalous energy signature detected in Sector 7, her ship's AI announced, highlighting a section of the lower ring. Sarah leaned forward, adjusting the sensors. The reading didn't match any known commercial or military patterns. Cross-reference with known signatures, Delta, she commanded, fingers dancing across the holographic interface. The AI processed for several seconds before responding. No matches in database. However, pattern suggests high-energy containment fields. Sarah's expression hardened. Containment fields of that magnitude weren't used for cargo, they were used for holding living beings. After 2 years tracking interstellar trafficking operations, she recognized the signs. The Whisper glided silently through space, its advanced stealth systems rendering it practically invisible to conventional scanners. Sarah docked at a maintenance port, her false credentials identifying her as a routine inspector. The station's security protocols accepted her codes without question, the benefit of having the best forgers in the intelligence service on your side. The maintenance corridors were eerily quiet, her footsteps echoing off metal walls despite her light tread. Sarah's augmented vision highlighted potential security measures, motion sensors, heat detectors, and quantum scanners. She avoided them all with practiced ease. As she approached Sector 7, the air grew noticeably colder. The station's environmental systems typically maintained a constant temperature. This variation was deliberate, meant to keep something, or someone, in a state of mild discomfort. A guard rounded the corner ahead, his uniform bearing the insignia of the station's security force. Sarah didn't hesitate. She stepped forward confidently, nodding as she passed. The best way to avoid suspicion was to act like you belonged. The guard barely glanced at her, more interested in his datapad than a routine inspector. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Human nature remained predictable, even out here among the stars. The energy signature grew stronger as she approached a heavily reinforced door. The security panel beside it required both biometric and quantum key authentication, far more protection than any legitimate cargo would need. Sarah retrieved a quantum decoder from her belt, disguised as a standard inspection tool. As she worked on bypassing the security, her enhanced hearing picked up something from behind the door, singing. The melody was unlike anything she'd ever heard, haunting and beautiful, with harmonics that seemed impossible for a human voice to produce. The decoder beeped softly, and the door slid open with a nearly silent hiss. Sarah stepped through into a dimly lit chamber and froze. Dozens of containment cells lined the walls, each one holding a being that seemed to be made of living light. Their skin shimmered with bioluminescence, casting soft blue and silver glows that danced across the walls. These were Luminians, a species known for their natural ability to manipulate light and energy. They were also supposed to be protected under multiple galactic treaties. Their presence here, in containment cells, could only mean one thing: slavery. One of the Luminians noticed her and pressed closer to the energy field containing them. Unlike the others, this one's light pulsed with a fierce intensity. Their eyes met, and Sarah felt a connection form, not telepathy, but something deeper, a recognition of shared determination. "You're different," the Luminian said, their voice carrying that same impossible melody Sarah had heard earlier. "Your energy pattern, you're not one of them." Sarah glanced at her wrist display, checking the time. She had perhaps 5 minutes before the security systems registered an anomaly in the door logs. "I'm here to help," she whispered, stepping closer to the cell. "My name is Sarah Chen, Earth Intelligence Service. Can you tell me how many of you are being held here?" 47, the Luminian replied. "They take us from our outer colonies, where treaty enforcement is weak. They say they're offering work contracts, but once we're aboard their ships. The being's light dimmed slightly. I am Lyra. The others look to me for guidance, but I have failed them. Sarah's jaw tightened. No, you haven't. But I need to know, are there other facilities like this? Other species being held? Lyra's light pulsed in what Sarah interpreted as affirmation. Many. This is merely one node in a vast network. They sell us to collectors, to those who would use our abilities for their own gain. Some of my people are forced to power weapons, others to create entertainment spectacles. A distant alarm sounded, and Sarah cursed under her breath. She'd stayed too long. I have to go, she said, already backing toward the door. But I'm coming back for you, all of you. You have my word. Lyra's light brightened. Why? Your kind has no obligation to help us. Sarah paused at the threshold, meeting Lyra's gaze one final time. Because it's right. And because humanity learned long ago that chains, no matter how pretty, are still chains. As she slipped back into the maintenance corridors, Sarah's mind was already racing with plans. She'd need help. This was bigger than one operative could handle alone. But she had made a promise, and Sarah Chen kept her promises. She tapped her neural link, connecting to her ship's secure channel. Delta, contact command. Authorization Chen Alpha 79. Tell them we found it, and it's worse than we thought. Request immediate backup and full operational authority. The AI acknowledged as Sarah made her way back to the Whisper. Behind her, the haunting melody of Luminian's song echoed in her mind, a reminder of what was at stake. The galaxy might see humans as newcomers, as primitive compared to older species. But they had forgotten one crucial fact: nothing in human history had ever survived standing between humanity and freedom. The game was on, breaking the chains. 3 days after discovering the Luminian captives, Sarah stood before the holographic display in her ship's command center, studying the station's schematics. Her request for backup had been approved, but with a catch: she needed proof of high-level involvement before command would commit resources to a full operation. Display security patrol patterns, last 72 hours, she ordered. Delta overlaid the data, revealing intricate patterns of movement throughout the station, but something wasn't right. There, Sarah muttered, zooming in on Sector 7. The patrols overlap every 4 hours except for a 3-minute window. That's our breach point. She had spent the intervening days establishing her cover, playing the role of a corrupt inspector willing to overlook violations for a price. The station's criminal elements had started to accept her presence, but she knew the facade wouldn't last long. A soft chime indicated an incoming transmission. Inspector Chen, a gravelly voice said, "Your presence is requested in the Crimson Lounge. The Baron wishes to discuss your recent findings." Sarah's pulse quickened. The Baron was the station's unofficial ruler, though few had ever seen him in person. This could be the break she needed, or a trap. "Inform the Baron I'm honored," she replied smoothly. "I'll arrive within the hour." After the transmission ended, Sarah retrieved a specialized neural dampener from her equipment cache. If the rumors about the Baron's telepathic abilities were true, she'd need it. The Crimson Lounge lived up to its name, bathed in deep red lighting that cast everything in bloody hues. Sarah was escorted through layers of security to a private booth where a figure sat shrouded in shadows. Inspector Chen, the Baron's voice was surprisingly melodious. Or should I say, Agent Chen. Sarah's hand instinctively moved toward her concealed weapon, but the Baron raised a hand. "Please, no theatrics. If I wanted you dead, you wouldn't have made it past the door." He leaned forward, revealing features that seemed to shift and change, never settling on one form. A metamorph, one of the rarest and most dangerous species in known space. "You're wondering why I haven't killed you," he continued. "The answer is simple. You're more valuable to me alive. You see, I have a problem, and you're going to help me solve it." "And why would I do that?" Sarah kept her voice steady, grateful for the neural dampener protecting her thoughts. The Baron's features rippled in what might have been amusement, because I'm going to tell you something that will change everything you think you know about this operation. The Luminians? They're not just slaves, they're weapons. He gestured, and a holographic display materialized between them, showing what appeared to be military installations. Someone is building an army, Agent Chen. The Luminians are being conditioned, their abilities weaponized, and I want to know who's behind it. Sarah's mind raced. If the Baron was telling the truth, this was far bigger than a trafficking operation. Why tell me this? Because humans have a remarkable talent for destroying carefully laid plans, the Baron replied. And right now, that's exactly what I need. Help me expose the true architects of this scheme, and I'll help you free the Luminians. You expect me to trust you? Trust, the Baron laughed. No, but I expect you to recognize an opportunity when you see one. You have 12 hours to decide. After that, well, his form shifted again, briefly taking on Sarah's own appearance. Accidents happen to inspectors all the time. Back in the relative safety of the Whisper, Sarah paced the command center. Delta, analyze probability of the Baron's claims. Based on available data, 73% likelihood of accuracy, the AI responded. Energy readings from Sector 7 support the weapons development theory. Sarah stopped pacing, her decision made. She opened a secure channel to Lyra's containment cell, using the frequency she'd identified during her first visit. Lyra, can you hear me? There was a moment of static before the Luminian's melodic voice responded. Agent Chen, how? No time to explain. I need to know. Are they trying to weaponize your abilities? Lyra's voice grew heavy. Yes, they force us to channel our energy in ways that were never meant to be. Some of us have already burned out trying to resist. Sarah's fists clenched. Hold on a little longer. I'm going to get you out, but I need to play along with them first. Can you spread the word to the others? Tell them to be ready. We will be ready, Lyra promised. But Sarah, be careful. The Baron is not what he seems. Is anyone out here? Sarah smiled grimly. She spent the next hour preparing her response to the Baron's offer. If he wanted to play games, she could play, but she'd play to win. She encoded a message to command, updating them on the situation and requesting additional surveillance resources. The station's artificial night cycle was beginning when Sarah's sensors detected movement in the maintenance corridors near Sector 7. Multiple signatures, moving with purpose. Delta, identify. Unknown contacts. Biological signatures do not match known species parameters. Sarah checked her weapons and headed for the door. Whatever was happening, she needed tow. A massive explosion rocked the station, throwing her against the wall. Emergency sirens blared as artificial gravity fluctuated. Multiple breaches detected, Delta reported. Containment fields in Sector 7 are failing. Sarah broke into a run. The Baron's 12 hours hadn't been a deadline, they'd been a warning. Someone had decided to clean house, and the Luminians were caught in the middle. As she raced through the corridors, Sarah activated her neural link. Command, this is Agent Chen. Operation is blown. Requesting immediate intervention. Emergency Protocol 7. She rounded the corner to Sector 7 and skidded to a halt. The security door had been torn apart from the inside, and in the chamber beyond, chaos reigned. Luminians floated free of their cells, their combined light nearly blinding. But they weren't escaping, they were fighting. Figures in sealed combat suits were attempting to subdue the freed Luminians, using some kind of energy-dampening weapons. But the Luminians, led by Lyra, had formed a defensive pattern, their combined energy creating a barrier of pure light. Sarah didn't hesitate. She drew her weapon and fired, taking down two of the attackers before they realized she was there. The fight for freedom had begun, and this time, humanity wasn't going to stand by and watch. The real question was, who would be left standing when it ended? The price of freedom. Chaos erupted in Sector 7 as Sarah dove behind a fallen support beam, plasma bolts sizzling through the air where she had stood moments before. The Luminian's defensive barrier pulsed with increasing intensity, their combined light creating patterns that seemed to bend reality itself. "Lyra," Sarah shouted over the din of battle, "can your people make it to the emergency shuttles?" "Not without help," Lyra's voice carried despite the chaos. "They've activated dampening fields in all major corridors. We'll be weakened the moment we leave this chamber." Sarah cursed under her breath. Of course the attackers would have planned for that. She tapped her neural link, scanning the station's systems through her enhanced interface. The dampening fields drew massive power that had to come from somewhere. "Delta, locate the primary power distribution nodes for Sector 7. 3 nodes identified, the AI responded. "Warning, disrupting power distribution may affect life support systems." "Better than letting them recapture the Luminians," Sarah muttered. She fired another burst at the attackers, forcing them back from their attempt to flank the Luminians' position. "Lyra, I need 2 minutes. Can you hold them?" The Luminians' light flared brighter. "We will not submit again. 2 minutes you shall have." Sarah sprinted for the maintenance access panel, her augmented muscles pushing her faster than any normal human could move. The panel yielded to her override codes, revealing a maze of power conduits and control systems. "Delta, mark target points." 3 spots illuminated in her enhanced vision. Sarah pulled a handful of microcharges from her tactical vest, officially restricted equipment that she'd forgotten to return after her last deep cover operation. The first charge went into place as another explosion rocked the station. Warning klaxons blared, announcing containment breaches in multiple sectors. Sarah smiled grimly. The station's legitimate authorities would be too busy with damage control to interfere. "Agent Chen," the Baron's voice purred through her comm link. "I'm disappointed. I offered you a partnership." "Funny thing about humans," Sarah replied, placing the second charge. "We have trust issues, especially when someone tries to manipulate us. The creatures you're trying to save, they're not what you think. Their potential as weapons isn't something being forced upon them. It's their true nature." Sarah reached the final power node. "Maybe, but where I come from, we believe everyone deserves the right to choose their own path." She placed the last charge and activated the detonation sequence. "Delta, route all remaining power to emergency systems and life support." "Acknowledged. Charges will detonate in 10 seconds. Sarah sprinted back toward the Luminian's position. "Lyra, when the fields drop, head for docking bay 3. My ship's AI will guide you." The charges detonated simultaneously. The station's lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. The dampening fields disappeared with an audible snap. The Luminians' collective light surged, no longer contained by artificial barriers. Their radiance filled the chamber, forcing their attackers to shield their eyes despite protective gear. In that moment of blindness, the Luminians struck. Sarah had never seen anything like it. Beams of concentrated light lanced through the chamber, precise as surgeons' scalpels. Combat suits failed, weapons overloaded, and the attackers fell back in disarray. "Now," Sarah commanded, "move." The Luminians flowed through the corridors like a river of light, their combined power burning through any resistance they encountered. Sarah brought up the rear, ensuring no stragglers were left behind. "Agent Chen," the Baron's voice again, but different now, strained. "You don't understand what you're unleashing." "I understand freedom," Sarah replied, firing at a group of security drones that rounded the corner. "Everything else is negotiable." They reached docking bay 3 with surprisingly little resistance. Too little, Sarah realized. Something wasn't right. The Whisper sat ready, its boarding ramp extended. As the first Luminians approached it, Sarah's tactical instincts screamed a warning. "Wait," she shouted, but it was too late. Energy fields sprang to life around the ship, more powerful than anything she'd seen before. The Baron stepped out of the shadows, his form rippling between shapes. Did you really think I wouldn't have a contingency plan? He asked. That I wouldn't be prepared for this exact scenario. But Sarah was smiling. Actually, I was counting on it. The Baron's expression shifted to confusion just as the deck beneath him exploded. A boarding torpedo breached the station's hull, and through the breach poured armored figures bearing the insignia of Earth's Special Operations Command. Took you long enough, Sarah called out to the lead figure. Had to wait for the right moment, sis, Commander Jack Chen replied, his helmet retracting to reveal a grin identical to Sarah's. Besides, looked like you had things under control. The Baron's form blurred as he tried to escape, but focused sonic pulses from the Earth commandos forced him to maintain solid form. He collapsed, finally revealing his true appearance. Not a metamorph at all, but something far older and more dangerous. A Void Walker, Lyra breathed. We thought they were extinct. Which explains the interest in weaponizing your people, Sarah realized. They needed your light to counter their darkness. As Earth's forces secured the area and began evacuating the Luminians, Sarah approached the captured Baron. You were right about one thing, she told him. Humans do have a talent for destroying carefully laid plans, especially when those plans involve slavery. The Baron's true form seemed to absorb the light around it. You have no idea what's coming. The darkness between stars grows hungry. Without weapons like these, your species will not survive what awaits. Sarah stood, turning her back on him. Maybe, but we'll face it as free people, standing together. That's the human way. Lyra approached as Sarah watched the evacuation proceed. Your kind continues to surprise us, the Luminians said. Most species would have seen us only as tools or weapons, but you saw us as people. That's because we've been where you are, Sarah replied. Fighting for freedom is practically a human tradition. The real question is, what will your people do with your freedom? Lyra's light pulsed warmly. Perhaps we could start by forming an alliance. After all, if the Baron spoke truly about what's coming, we might all need friends in the dark times ahead. Sarah nodded, watching as the last of the Luminians boarded the rescue ships. Whatever was coming, humanity had just proven once again that it would stand against tyranny, no matter the form it took. The stars beckoned, and with them, the promise of battles yet to come. But for now, chains had been broken, and that was enough. Rebellion in the stars. Aboard the Earth Command vessel Harbinger, Sarah watched the holographic display as dozens of rescued Luminians received medical attention. 2 weeks had passed since the rescue at Nexus Station, but the ripple effects were still spreading across known space. Analysis complete, Delta announced, projecting data streams beside the medical feeds. The Baron's neural patterns confirm his species identity. The Void Walkers weren't extinct. They were hiding, gathering strength. Commander Jack Chen stepped into the command center, his usually casual demeanor replaced by focused intensity. Intel from the Baron's captured databases is worse than we thought, sis. This wasn't an isolated operation. There are dozens of similar facilities across the frontier sectors. Sarah's jaw tightened. How many other species? At least 7. The Luminians were just the beginning. The Void Walkers have been systematically capturing and experimenting on energy-sensitive species, building an army. Or a shield, Lyra's melodic voice added as she entered. The Luminian leader's light had grown stronger since their escape, her presence now filling the room with a subtle radiance. My people have been studying the data you recovered. We believe we know what the Void Walkers fear. She waved her hand, and the holographic display shifted to show deep space readings. There is a reason they lurk in the darkness between stars. Something is coming, something that devours light itself. The display zoomed in on what appeared to be empty space, but Sarah's enhanced vision caught subtle distortions. Delta, Enhanced Sector 47. The image resolved to show what looked like tears in the fabric of space itself, wounds in reality that leaked absolute darkness. The Void Walkers call them the Nameless, Lara continued. They exist in the spaces between dimensions, feeding on energy in all its forms: light, heat, even the bioelectric fields of living beings. And they're coming here? Jack asked, studying the display intently. They're already here, Sarah realized, connecting the dots. The Void Walkers weren't building weapons, they were building batteries. Living batteries to power some kind of defense. Lara's light pulsed in agreement. My people's natural abilities to manipulate and store energy make us ideal power sources. The other captured species each have similar traits. Together, we could theoretically generate enough power to seal the dimensional breaches. At the cost of your lives, Sarah added grimly. That's why they kept you imprisoned. Willing participants might survive the energy transfer, but slaves forced to their limits would burn out completely, Lyra finished. Yes, but there might be another way. My people have been communicating with the other rescued species. We believe that with human assistance, we could create a voluntary defense network. Jack raised an eyebrow. Human assistance? What can we add to a fight against interdimensional energy vampires? Sarah smiled, already seeing where Lyra was going. Innovation, adaptation. Every other species seeks perfection in their chosen path, but humans find new paths. Lyra's light brightened. Your technology, combined with our natural abilities, could create defenses the Void Walkers never imagined. But we need your help, all of you. Before they could discuss further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple vessels detected emerging from FTL, Delta reported. Energy signatures match known Void Walker configurations. How many? Sarah demanded, already moving to battle stations. 17 capital ships, plus support vessels. They're launching fighters. Jack activated the ship-wide comm. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Special operations teams, prepare for potential boarding actions. Sarah turned to Lyra. Get your people to the secure chambers. We'll handle. No, Lyra interrupted, her light pulsing with determination. We will fight beside you. The Void Walkers fought to use us as batteries. Let them see what willing allies can do. The Harbinger shuddered as the first enemy salvos struck its shields. Throughout the ship, Luminians moved to predetermined positions, their lights synchronizing with the vessel's power systems. Power output increasing by 300%, Delta reported. Shields at maximum. Weapons systems receiving unprecedented energy levels. Sarah took her place at the tactical station, feeling the ship come alive around her in ways she'd never experienced. The Luminians weren't just providing power, they were becoming one with the ship's systems, enhancing every aspect of its performance. Multiple dimensional breaches detected, Delta warned. The Nameless are responding to the energy surge. Through the viewscreens, Sarah watched as tears in space began to appear, darkness seeping through like ink in water. The Void Walker ships moved to engage them, their weapons seemingly capable of pushing the darkness back. They're not trying to kill us, Sarah realized. They're trying to capture us, to force us all into their defense plan. Then let's show them why that was a mistake, Jack grinned. All batteries, open fire. Show them what happens when humanity and its allies fight back. The Harbinger's weapons blazed with unprecedented power, each shot wreathed in Luminian energy. Where standard weapons would have barely scratched Void Walker shields, these enhanced beams cut through like plasma through ice. Additional vessels emerging from FTL, Delta announced. Earth Defense Force signatures detected. The fleet has arrived. Sarah allowed herself a fierce smile as hundreds of human warships dropped out of FTL, their hulls already glowing with the light of more Luminian volunteers. The battle for the future of known space had begun. And humanity, as always, would fight for freedom, not just their own, but for all who would stand with them. Unity among the stars. Space itself seemed to warp and twist as the battle raged. The Harbinger dove through the chaos, its Luminian-enhanced weapons carving paths through Void Walker formations, while dimensional breaches spawned like cancer around them. 3 enemy capital ships disabled, Delta reported. But the dimensional anomalies are increasing exponentially, detecting massive energy drains in affected sectors. Sarah watched as one of the tiers in space expanded, swallowing an entire Void Walker vessel. The ship's desperate distress beacon cut off mid-transmission, leaving only silence. They didn't understand, Lara said softly, her light pulsing in time with the ship's systems. The Void Walkers thought they could control the Nameless, use them as a weapon. But darkness cannot be controlled, only pushed back by light. New contact, Jack called from the command station. Something massive coming through the largest breach. The view screen showed it clearly, a shape that defied description, darkness given form. Where it passed, stars dimmed and space itself seemed to decay. Smaller nameless entities swarmed around it like pilot fish around a shark. That's their master, Lyra's voice carried an ancient dread. The first dark, from which all others spawn. The Void Walker's greatest fear. Sarah's tactical display showed Earth fleet formations adjusting, bringing their enhanced weapons to bear. But even their combined firepower seemed to wash over the entity without effect. Delta analysis. Entity is consuming all forms of energy directed against it, the AI reported. Conventional weapons are ineffective. At current consumption rate, it will drain all power from this sector within hours. Sarah's mind raced. Energy weapons didn't work. Physical weapons passed right through it. They needed something else, something. Wait, she turned to Lyra. You said darkness can't be controlled, only pushed back by light. What if we're not thinking big enough? What if instead of attacking it directly? Lyra's light brightened as she caught Sarah's meaning. We create a cascade. A chain reaction of light energy so intense it forces the darkness to retreat or be overwhelmed. Can we do it? Jack asked. Generate that much power. Not alone, Lyra replied. But we're not alone anymore. Sarah opened a fleet-wide channel. All ships, this is Agent Chen. We need every Luminian and energy-sensitive species to synchronize with their ship's power systems. Prepare for total power transfer on my mark. Warning, Delta interjected. Proposed energy levels exceed safe parameters. Ship systems may overload. Better than letting that thing consume everything, Sarah replied. She turned to Lyra. Can your people handle it? The Luminian's light pulsed with determination. We choose this freely. That makes all the difference. Throughout the fleet, Luminians and other energy-sensitive species began to glow brighter, their light synchronizing across ships and space. The Harbinger's power readings went off the scale as Lyra coordinated the effort. The Void Walkers are pulling back, Jack reported. They know what's coming. Sarah watched the tactical display as the massive dark entity sensed the building power. It turned toward them, its very presence seeming to draw the warmth from her bones. Now, she commanded. Light exploded from the combined fleet, not weapon fire, but pure, radiant energy. Every ship glowed like a newborn sun, their Luminian allies channeling power in ways the Void Walkers had never imagined possible. The first arc recoiled as the wave of light struck it. Where darkness had consumed everything in its path, now it was forced to retreat. The smaller nameless entities scattered, their connection to their master disrupted by the intense radiance. Dimensional breaches are collapsing, Delta reported. Enemy entity is being forced back through the largest tier. Keep pushing, Sarah ordered, even as warning lights flashed across her console. The Harbinger's hull creaked under the strain of channeling so much energy. Lyra's voice rang out, not just through the ship, but seemingly through space itself, as she coordinated the final surge. The combined light of 1,000 ships and their alien allies reached a crescendo. For a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. Then, with a silent scream that seemed to vibrate in Sarah's very atoms, the first arc was hurled back through its breach. The tail in space sealed behind it with a reality-bending snap, and the smaller breaches followed suit, closing like wounds healing in fast motion. Entity contained, Delta confirmed. Dimensional breaches sealed, power levels returning to normal parameters. Sarah sagged in her chair, exhausted but triumphant. Around her, the Luminians' light dimmed to its normal radiance, though there was a new confidence in their glow. "The Void Walkers are retreating," Jack announced. "Want to pursue?" "No," Sarah decided, watching the surviving dark ships flee. "They've learned their lesson. You can't force allies to fight for you. Real strength comes from standing together by choice." Lyra approached, her light warm and steady. "This is only the beginning, you know. The Nameless will try again. The darkness between stars is patient." "Then we'll be ready," Sarah replied. "Not as masters and slaves, but as equals, as friends." The Harbinger's view screen showed the assembled Earth fleet, each ship still glowing faintly with residual Luminian energy. It was a new kind of power, not taken, but freely given. Not forced, but chosen. "You know," Jack mused, "for a species that's barely left its solar system, we humans have a knack for shaking up the galaxy." Sarah smiled, watching as Luminian ships began to emerge from FTL, drawn by news of the battle and its outcome. "That's because we know the most important truth in the universe." "And what's that?" Lyra asked. "That the strongest light comes from the heart, freely given in defense of others. Everything else is just details." As the fleet regrouped and damage reports came in, Sarah knew this was just the beginning. There would be more battles, more challenges, but humanity had found its place among the stars, not as conquerors or saviors, but as friends to all who would stand against the darkness. Together, they would light the way forward. A new dawn. 3 months after the Battle of the Dark Breach, as it came to be known, Sarah stood before the newly formed Galactic Coalition Council. The massive chamber, constructed aboard the neutral space station Unity, reflected the diverse nature of this unprecedented alliance. Representatives from 200 species filled the tiered seats that have varied forms and energy signatures, creating a living tapestry of galactic life. "The human speaks truth," the rescued Void Walker scientist, Vala, addressed the assembly. Unlike his militant brethren, he had chosen to help after seeing the power of willing cooperation. "For millennia, my people sought to control and harness other species, believing it the only way to survive the Nameless. We were wrong." Sarah stepped forward, her dress uniform gleaming under the chamber's lights. The medals she'd received for the Nexus Station operation caught the light, but it was the small crystal given to her by the Luminians that she treasured most. "The Battle of the Dark Breach taught us all something crucial," she began, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The Void Walkers weren't wrong about the threat. They were wrong about the solution. You can't force people to fight for you. You can't enslave them into being your shields. True strength comes from standing together by choice." Lyra floated beside her, her light now permanently altered by the battle, showing swirling patterns that matched the energy signatures of human technology. The merger of their powers had changed both species in subtle but significant ways. "The Nameless will return," Sarah continued. "The darkness between stars is patient, as we've learned, but we're no longer divided. Earth opens its universities to all species who wish to study there. The Luminians offer to teach their energy manipulation techniques to compatible races. The Void Walkers who chose to join us share their dimensional mathematics." She gestured to the holographic display showing the new defense network being constructed. "This is what humanity brings to the galaxy, not superior technology or natural abilities, but the understanding that diversity is strength. Every species here has something unique to offer. Together, we're stronger than any force that threatens us." The chamber erupted in a chorus of agreement, expressed in hundreds of different ways: light pulses, gravitational waves, quantum fluctuations, and verbal sounds across the entire spectrum of communication. Later, in her private quarters aboard the Harbinger, Sarah reviewed the day's developments with Jack and Lyra. The ship had become a symbol of the new coalition, its systems now a perfect hybrid of human innovation and alien capabilities. The Voidwalker separatists are still out there, Jack noted, studying intelligence reports. Some still believe in the old ways. Let them, Sarah replied. Every day, more of their people see the truth. Volar's research team has already developed new shields based on cooperative energy sharing rather than forced extraction. They're twice as effective as the old methods. Lyra's light rippled with amusement. You humans have a gift for turning enemies into allies. Even now, some of the old ones can't quite believe how quickly you've changed the galaxy's power structure. We had practice, Sarah smiled. Earth's history is full of former enemies becoming strongest friends. Besides, we're not trying to rule anyone. We just want everyone to have the chance to choose their own path. Delta's hologram materialized. Long-range sensors detect unusual activity in Sector 47. Energy patterns match preliminary stages of dimensional breaching. Instead of panic, the news was met with calm preparation. Alert the Coalition Defense Fleet, Sarah ordered. Have the Luminian Rapid Response Teams stand by. And contact the Voidwalker Science Division. Let's see what they make of the readings. Already done, Delta replied. Coalition forces responding with 93% efficiency. Estimated response time, 15 minutes. Sarah watched the tactical display as ships of various species moved into defensive positions. Just 3 months ago, such cooperation would have seemed impossible. Now it was routine. You know, Jack mused, when I joined Special Operations, I thought I'd be defending Earth from alien threats. Never imagined I'd end up helping create a multi-species alliance. That's because you lack imagination, little brother, Sarah teased. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our determination, though those help. It's our ability to see possibilities where others see only problems. Lyra's light pulsed in agreement. You show us new ways to use our gifts, new ways to work together. Even the nameless cannot stand against such unity. The tactical display updated, showing coalition forces already moving to contain the possible breach. Scientists of multiple species collaborated in real time, sharing data and theories. Defense platforms powered by freely given energy stood ready. The darkness between stars may be patient, Sarah said, watching the coordinated response, but it's going to learn something important. Light shines brightest when it shines together. She touched the crystal the Luminians had given her, a symbol of the bond between their peoples. In its depths, she saw not just light, but possibility. The galaxy was changing, growing, learning to stand together against the darkness. And humanity, the newcomers to the galactic stage, had found its true purpose, not to conquer or control, but to unite. To show that the strongest bonds are those forged in freedom, and the brightest future is one they would all build together. The stars beckoned, no longer distant and cold, but alive with the light of countless allies. Whatever darkness lurked between them, they would face it as one. That was the human way. That was the new way. And in the end, that would make all the difference.